Win big with new DRF All Access Past Performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code ONEFREEPP for a free single card today.
Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at race number 9 at Keeneland on Saturday. It's the Grade 3 Bryan Station. These are 3-year-olds going 1 mile on the turf. $600,000 for the Bryan Station. No surprise we have an overflow field. But before we take a look at that field, remember that DRFTV viewers get 10% off all DRF past performances. Shop now with the access code on your screen and use the coupon code DRFTV10. Here's the field for the Bryan Station. 12 in the body of the race, 13 through 15 also eligibles. There have been some big prices that have won this race over the years, Mike. Hoping to maybe change that pattern is the 11 Trickery, the horse to beat for Graham Motion.
Yeah, good, really good field here. There's some real talent in this race, and you're right. This race always pulls a big field, and it seems like we get plenty of upsets. Make no mistake about it, though. They have Trickery to beat here. This horse has been good all year long from start to finish.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. It's a big and bulky field, and there might be some pace. Note the red bar from Timeform US. The flawless Indiana bred Demolisher, 5 for 5 in his career. He can win from on the lead. He can win from off the pace. It'll be interesting to see what tactics they decide to use. Mansa Musa is stretching out around 2 turns for the first time. He might show a little bit of speed, and I really think my boy Prince has to be closer. He was too far back in the Woodbine Mile.
He was. Little bobble at the start for my boy Prince last time. Maybe that affected him. After that, they just sort of sat on the outside off the pace. I think he could be more forward in here. Certainly Demolisher in this race. I feel like they're going, if they're going to run in this race. Mansa Musa, I know he's stretching out. Doesn't seem like a real speed to me, but maybe just stretching out. We'll put him there. Watch out for the 3, Hershey. That horse has a lot of speed.
Keep an eye on the 2 Depiction. Note the LP flag over his chiclet. That indicates he has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating. We'll start things off with a really tactical horse that can work out a nice trip from the inside post under Junior Alvarado. That's neat to earn 2 graded stakes victories in New York over the summer, and then last time out ran in Kentucky Downs. You're always going to go for the big money at Kentucky Downs without knowing whether your horse will like the surface or not. I wonder if Neat liked it, or at least ran up to his par. I think he's a little bit better than what he showed in that race.
Yeah, me too. To me, that's the toughest call about him, because I just want to give him the Kentucky Downs excuse. Now, when you watch the race back then, he got a perfectly good trip. He had every chance in there, and he just kind of didn't finish as well as I'm used to seeing him finish. So was it the end of sort of a long campaign for this horse that's catching up to him, or is it just Kentucky Downs? I want to give him the Kentucky Downs excuse because I like everything that he did leading up to that race. His Hall of Fame was really good. His Manila was really good. This is a much tougher race. Even when Trickery beat him back on Derby weekend, this horse had an impossible trip in that race.
Depiction is another horse coming off somewhat of a lackluster effort at Kentucky Downs. He's been beaten by several of these already, so it makes you wonder whether he can take the necessary step up. But there's one thing to notice when going over his PPs. He sure runs well second start of the form cycle. He wins his second lifetime start. He wins second off the layoff at Churchill Downs in May. So he's going second off the layoff, and he's going to get the right setup.
Yeah, those things are all true. I mean, the pace projection that they showed before, if that's correct, that's really going to help this horse. He doesn't really have a lot of speed, and he's always got a lot of work to do in the stretch. Now, he's obviously got a lot to prove here, stepping back up into a tougher stakes race, because the American Derby, I don't know about you, Dan. I thought he got a perfectly good trip in that race, and he just wasn't close to good enough to win that one. I actually thought he ran pretty well in that last one without a great trip, but it's Kentucky Downs, so I don't know how much credit to give him for it. He's going to need to catch a break or two and move forward in here. That being said, 30-1 on the morning line, it gets me interested. I could use this horse somewhere.
Hershey has a lot of upside potential. I'm not sure we've seen his best yet. He won his first 2 starts, and what I liked about it is he showed speed in those races, but he came to hand really nicely for his jockey, and he settled like an old pro, winning those 2. They ran him at Kentucky Downs in the Gun Runner. He ran just fine, spotting a lot of experience to Brilliant Birdie, so he's tactical. And listen, Helen Pitts knows exactly what she's doing, and for some reason, they usually don't get bet.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like she has tons of horses either for some reason. Maybe that's just the way that she wants it, but you're right. She knows what she's doing. It's nice to see her with another really good horse here. I don't know about you, Dan. I like all three of this horse's starts. I mean, to me, this horse could really run. There's some talent in this field, but I won't be surprised if down the road this horse turns out to be the best one out of all of them. You go back to that Kentucky Downs race, that pace was fast. This horse was right up close the entire way. He was sort of caught in behind horses in the stretch. He got the split. He ran in that race, Dan. He was just second best at the end, but that was a pretty good performance.
Is my boy Prince as good on turf as he seems on synthetic? Maybe the cold dope says no. I say yes, because every time it seems they run him on the turf, it's at the wrong distance, like the Palisades, his first start this year, or in a tough spot like the Summer or the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, or last time out in the Woodbine Mile where he was dismissed at double-digit odds. He didn't break well, as you mentioned. He was sort of last. He altered course very wide into the stretch. There were no excuses. That field was just better than he was. But I think he fits with these horses back in with 3-year-olds.
Yeah, he's a very interesting horse, and especially at any kind of a big price like that morning line has him at, because I do think there's an argument to be made, as good as he looks on the all other. I think there's an argument to be made that he's a better turf horse, that the mile is really his distance, and now he gets back in with 3-year-olds. I don't know if he had a huge excuse last time, Dan, but he had some excuse. It's not like he got a perfect trip in that race.
Demolisher, perfect 5 for 5. All of those wins against fellow Indiana breds, including his most recent turf start. This is two back in the Bucaro, going a mile and a 16th. He sat off the pace. He attacked on the outside, and he kind of proved to the folks at Horseshoe Indianapolis that he was the real deal, because he was 6-1 in this race. They ran him back on dirt in the Too Much Coffee, and he was odds on and too much hoss.
Yeah, too good for those older horses back on dirt last time. Too much for older horses here on the turf. He's got, listen, this is a real class test for this horse. You know, I feel like sometimes you ship into a race like this and you just sort of hope it doesn't come up with a super strong field. This one came up with a pretty strong field.
Brilliant Birdie beat 3 of these last time out at Kentucky Downs. It's the Gun Runner Stakes. It's worth, what, $1.5 million? And Brilliant Birdie usually shows up with a good performance, and he showed up with a good performance here. I really like the way he finished off the last 16th of a mile, and I don't think he's a Kentucky Downs move up. He's run very well at Churchill Downs. He's run very well at Colonial. He's a legit 3-year-old turf horse.
Yeah, he's just good in here. That's Hershey right down to his inside there on the rail, who he's getting the better of in that race, and Meat was coming on the outside late there. He beat a good field. Overall, he got a really good trip in that race then, because the pace was really fast in there, and he just sat back off it, came wide for the stretch, and had the best finish. We'll see, how much closer he can get to Trickery now, because if you go back to that Secretariat 2 back, I didn't really see his excuse in there, Dan. They put him, Dettori gave this horse a great ride. He put him right behind Trickery. He followed him around the track, and he tried to gun him down, and he didn't come close.
Laginos, the number 7, another horse exiting Kentucky Downs. But I'm not going to give him the Kentucky Downs excuse. Instead, I'm going to give him the distance excuse.
There you go.
That race was too far for him in the Nashville Derby, especially when you're facing the likes of Carson's Run, who came back to win the Jockey Club Derby, a grade 3 in New York with a 90 buyer. I think this horse is much better at a miler, and I think he proved it 2 starts back in the Hall of Fame. He was beaten, yes, by Neat that day, but he ran really well. My problem with him is I've seen him a lot.
Yep.
It's a lot of close but no cigar finishes, so you need a price, and everything's got to work right from a trip standpoint.
Yeah, I think you will get a price on him in here. So I'm not going to really argue with anything you say. I think you're 100% correct that the distance last time is way too far for him. This horse wants a mile. I don't think he wants any further than that. You're still going back to see. This is another situation. You go back to the Hall of Fame 2 starts back. This horse got a great trip in there. He had to jump on Neat. He made first run. He made the lead in the stretch, and he just couldn't hold Neat off. And it was without excuse in there. Yet he's got to find more.
And I thought he had a good trip in the American Derby
when
Brilliant Birdie beat him. And that's just the kind of thing. He's a solid horse getting back to his best distance, but he's got to really run his best. I usually am not a big proponent of the bounce theory. I wonder if Mansa Musa bounced in the Mahoney. Bill Mott, I think, had him primed and ready for that quick call. Boy, did he run a winning race. And he just happened to catch one of the better turf sprinters in the country in Star of Mystery, who ran over Mansa Musa, who then came back and was very flat, I thought, in the Mahoney. Last time out in the Franklin Simpson, however, Mansa Musa ran well at Kentucky Downs. It was a pretty fast pace. He took advantage. He gets up for 3rd. One of the also-rans came back to win an allowance at Keeneland with a 94 buyer speed figure. The distance is a question mark. They're going to stretch him out. In Mott, I trust.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he handles the stretch out. He's running on here at the end of this race. You see him just out finishing Evade there, who's also back in here for third at the end. I don't know, man. I like him quite a bit as a horse. I won't be shocked when he stretches out. I don't think I want to bet him against this field stretching out.
Evade made his North American debut at Kentucky Downs. He was listed as a first-time gelding, and he finished fourth just behind Mansa Musa in the race we saw. And you would think he would love the European configuration since it was his first start in North America. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. I thought he was a good 7/8 of a mile horse over there. I don't want to give him short shrift. I respect Maker. I don't know if 6-1 is enough for me.
I agree. I thought he was the toughest call in the race. I did like some of his races overseas. I do think it showed that he has enough talent to go with these horses. I'm not sure how much I really care about the Franklin Simpson last time. Then he didn't run horribly in there. I thought all in all, he got a decent trip in that race, and he just wasn't quite good enough. Again, I feel like you just have to sort of always keep it in mind. Maker, he was so dead at Kentucky Downs.
Yeah.
They weren't winning anything, and that sort of continued into the Keeneland meet as well. It's not like he's lighting it up here either, but you know he's got the right stock, and maybe he's got this horse in the right spot here. I didn't know what to do with him.
It's so important for Tyler to get this horse covered up, in my opinion, because there have been times overseas where he doesn't break and then he pulls very hard and stretching out in distance. If he utilizes those tactics, he might not have enough left in the tank. But if he gets covered up near the back with some pace, he can kick. Protective is going to try turf for the first time for trainer Todd Pletcher. He's by Medaglia d'Oro just fine, 11% with first-time turf runners. Not a lot of turf in the immediate family, though. This dam was a nice horse, but she was all dirt. The dam's a half to a stakes place turf miler. This horse was completely overmatched in the Pennsylvania Derby. They've treated him like a good horse on dirt. They ran him as a maiden in some very tough spots. I don't know about turf.
Yeah, they have treated him like a really good horse. It just hasn't really ever happened for him. The interesting thing about him too, Dan, is when 2 starts back, the 1.25 mile race, he comes out, he's entered for turf that day. He was not main track only. After he wins that, I mean, he would have to fall down to lose to that field. After the race is over, Pletcher, they're talking to Pletcher, and he's like, listen, if this horse has a future, it's not going to be on dirt. It's going to be on turf. And then he runs him back in the Pennsylvania Derby. He gets beat a million lengths. I don't know, man. They think he's a turf horse. I wonder if that's just because they know he's no good on dirt.
Or maybe Mike Rapoli had a hand in running in the Pennsylvania Derby.
Right.
The 11 is Trickery, who's one of the better 3-year-old turf horses in the country. This horse reeled off wins in the Belmont Derby and the Secretariat. He was the only 3-year-old in the City of Hope Mile last time out, and he happened to catch a really nice miler in Southern California named Johannes. He tried hard. I thought the trip was there for him. Johnny V had him kind of covered up in behind horses till about the 3/16. He eased out with a shot. He finished okay. He was the only 3-year-old again. He got a good buyer. He's the horse to beat.
Yeah, I agree with him. I mean, he ran well last time. He just couldn't quite get it done against those horses. I loved his Secretariat. His Belmont Derby was good. I'm still not convinced that he really loved that extra distance there. When he lost the Penn Mile back in May, he was the best horse in that race. The trip didn't really work out for him. He's just a really good horse, Dad. I think he's way the horse to beat here.
Twirling Point, the 12, I thought was just completely pace compromised last time out in the Caesars. They let that Maker horse, Lucky Jeremy, just walk on the lead. Nobody went after him, and I think Twirling Point was compromised. That being said, that was a very weak field, that Caesars, and some of his prior starts, while okay, don't make me really excited to bet him even at a giant price. Tough post position.
Yeah, man, I love to argue with you about this horse. I really liked him sort of towards the end of last year into this year. I really liked some of his races. I'm not sure. My memory's no good anymore. I know that after the rush away and then into before the Jersey Derby, in that space there between those 2 races, I know he was entered a couple of times in some stakes races that we did.
Yes.
Either race of the day or a stakes preview. And I know that I was very interested in him in those races. For whatever reason, he didn't run in any of them. I don't know. He was compromised last time. Still didn't love it. He won that Jersey Derby 2-back. Did not love that performance either. He's just got to improve.
And my memory's not as good as yours, but I think what happened is he was entered in a race at Horseshoe that either got washed off or there was some sort of weather problem. And then he might have been entered in that race at Pimlico, the Murphy for 3-year-olds, and the weather was so terrible and the turf course was so soft that maybe they scratched him as well. But like you, I'm just not that impressed with his last few. 3 horses on the also eligible list, have to admit. Don't love any of them. Goes the Clown, Call Protection. They would be the 2 for me.
Yeah, don't want any of those horses if they get in.
Let's take a look at our top picks. Wide open race. It's the Bryan Station Hershey. Only has run 3 times, has done very little wrong. Tactical speed to get a good trip. Think the price will be right.
I do too. He's got maybe as much to prove as anybody in this field, Dan. We'll see if he's up for it. Just from watching his 3 races, I think he might be up for it. This horse is pretty good, and there should be a good trip coming for him. I got Trickery second. I think he's the horse to beat.
Back in with 3-year-olds for my boy Prince, who I know if he breaks quicker, can get a little bit closer to the pace. He ran hard every step in the King's Play 2 starts back at a distance that might have been just a little too far for him. 3-11-1-2 for Mike. 4-11-6-3 for me. It's the Bryan Station, one of 3 stakes races at Keeneland on Saturday. Good luck. Hey, buddy, you look like you're in need of a winner. And just remember, if you like and subscribe right over here, you can get all of the great content on DRF.com, including Race of the Day, stakes previews, and lots more, featuring me and my superb selections. Trust me, you're not going to regret it.